Hey everybody, Mark Pachetti here. I am here once again with the late great Brandon Whitted.
Hey guys, good to see you again.
Oh, you're still alive! Awesome. I thought you were dead. Kidding. Today we're gonna talk about always testing with multiple pieces of creative. Now, what does that mean? So first of all, if you're writing a funnel, let's simplify it. If you're writing a sales letter or a VSL, you're going to write out the whole piece. You're going to element it out. You're going to be an architect who blueprints it. You're going to write it. But the very top, the lead, which could be anywhere from half a page to 3, 4, 5 pages, has to be different. You have to be able to test things in different ways. The same piece of creative can get different people to raise their hands. Likewise, if you have amazing information, 25% into your presentation, and people don't get there, they never get to experience it, and they never get to go through the emotion that would compel sales. So you always need to have multiple pieces of creative to test and to test against. Now, information and data are power. When you don't have, I'm sorry, you can see my notes. When you don't have, when you don't have the information, you are, you're still Stevie Wonder. You're blind. Now, let me give you an example. I thought about this last night. I was watching on Hulu. I've been dealing with pleurisy. I've been watching TV. I can't do much. And I was watching the show, The Curse of Oak Island. Brandon, you ever heard of that?
Not thus far. The Curse of Oak Island?
Yeah, it's about this island off of Nova Scotia, Canada. And it has what's called the Money Pit. And it was created in the late 1775, 1785, I don't know, somewhere in there. Or that's when it was discovered, I should say. It's older than that.
Right.
And they think, it could have the Holy Grail in there. It could have, it's like how there's so many levels of booby traps that millions of dollars have been spent to get to the bottom of this fucking money pit, and nobody's been able to do it yet. So I'm watching this show called The Curse of Oak Island, and they want to see in this particular area that has they found a 16th century Spanish coin. They found a lot of things to these millionaires that are being paid to be on the History Channel, are trying to figure out what's going on underneath the surface. So they bring in this team that puts out detonators, little bombs, all in this grid. And what they're doing is trying to create sound waves to see what's going on underneath the surface. But they needed to have the data points stretched out a bit of distance so that they can get a three-dimensional view of what's really going on.
A complete picture.
A complete picture. So they needed a lot of data. Just one piece of data or even just 10 pieces of data would not be worth the investment. They wouldn't get enough information to know what's really happening underneath the surface, so they wouldn't know what to do next, which makes it a complete waste of time. So by detonating these charges all over the place, they were able to get a sonic read, but using sound vibration of what's going on underneath the surface to see if there's anything man-made. If there's, anything under there that could be holding something hidden. So
right.
I was thinking about that as I was watching, and it's like, that's marketing. That's digital marketing. You have to set off a lot of detonations to see what's really going on, to get a full spectrum, full picture view of the audience, of the market, the receptivity, the initial sales, conversion, CPAs. There's so much information, cart values, checkout, cleaning up that checkout. It's just like there's so many different things to test against. It's like 4 checkout pages, 4 different ways to see, once people click onto the checkout page, if one convinces them or inspires them or motivates them to make the sale, then another one. Maybe two of them perform. But you're always getting more and more and more information. Just testing one thing in its place in the funnel doesn't give you, and we're going to talk about this, anything to compare against.
So having multiple creatives gives you this extra data, and that's which allows you to get your stuff converting and working a lot faster, right?
You get to see everything rather than guess. Now, when you guess with your ad dollars, what is that called?
Lost money? I don't know.
Gambling. Exactly
Yeah.
right. It's called gambling. When you are responding precisely to data, what is that called?
It's the opposite of gambling.
Following the path of least resistance. So everything needs to be tested against each other. Video ads on Facebook. Let's say you're running ads on Facebook. Video ads need to be tested against text pix ads, right? Quiz ads need to be tested. Giving away a free gift needs to be tested. What's going to get you the highest click-through rates at the lowest CPA, cost per acquisition. So you want a low cost per acquisition because that makes whatever sale you make have a higher value. So
would you say that clients you work for, they also appreciate you giving them extra stuff to test? Because let's say in a proposal, you say make a funnel.
Well, again, what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a freelance copywriter?
Freelance copywriter just does what he's told. An entrepreneur does what he needs to.
Exactly. A freelance copywriter that isn't a leader is just like a junior copywriter. If you're in an agency, you're the bitch. You're the guy, the gal that gets shit plopped on your lap, and you get to do all the grunt work while everybody else does the work that's going to excel. So you have to take that lead, and especially if you have back end. If you got 5% net equity, work that. If these people have ad dollars, help them get the very most out of it so that you can get to your back end as quickly as possible, so everybody can make more money, and hopefully a very good product or service is getting out there. Different leads, we talked about this. We're going to be covering that today. Different leads. So I'm just using Copywriting Miracle as an example, but maybe on the spot we'll write up something about sports, weight loss, diabetes, I don't know. Just different ways of entering the conversation. You never know what's going to get people to raise their hands. Don't get attached to any piece of creative, because if it fails, you're devastated. If it works, you're okay, but you're always living and dying by what happens next instead of being the leader who's doesn't matter what happens next, we're going to get there quickly, right? You understand the difference?
So one is just kind of hoping for the best. The other is being proactive.
Exactly. So the more that you put out there to test against, so different ads to test against each other, different quizzes to test against each other, quiz versus advertorial, quiz versus lead magnet versus advertorial, advertorial versus advertorial versus advertorial, an interstitial page, in other words, a thank you page that gets them to it's like a redirected page that gets them onto the main presentation. Node redirect page, having everybody just land directly on the presentation with a confirmation that whatever they're getting is in their inbox. So different ways to test.
Well, it's also the difference between doing bare minimum and also doing your best work, essentially.
Exactly. And if you're thinking like an entrepreneur and you want that back end, then get it. If you're not, don't complain. Don't ever fucking complain. You either do what it takes or you don't. And I'm going to get a little bit further into what it takes. So why do we do this? The more you test, the more data you're receiving. So we're getting that sonic view of what's happening underneath the surface, right?
Right.
Throwing out a single piece of creative or one version of a funnel does get data, and it's data that you can use. But how do you know if you don't test it against anything if it's good or bad? if it's really the path of least resistance? What if it's the path of most resistance, even if you can get results? So if you're not testing these things, you don't know. You don't get to clearly see what does and doesn't get engagement. That's a big deal. Again, because if you have nothing to compare data against, then it's just up to your conjecture, everybody guessing, and that can get very toxic, very sloppy, very quickly. When you test multiple pieces of creative, you're never dependent on a single piece of copy or creative, right?
So if a copywriter hands something in, he doesn't have, if you're relying on multiple pieces of creative, you don't have any anxiety. Because, I don't know, that's a common sale. You give your copy to the client.
If
like,
everything is in one basket and your whole life is dependent on that, then that's, again, called gambling. And it can feel overwhelming to have to do another third of work. But that's what entrepreneurs do. They do the work. So get paid up front what you're worth. And don't talk about it. If you're an entrepreneur writing your own copy, just realize that being a copywriter is a significant part of being an entrepreneur. So whether you're doing this on your own, whether you're a copywriter working with your clients and collaborating, whether there's partnerships going on here, everybody needs to be able to write the copy. It also means, I end this with collaboration, but the collaboration process is ongoing. The more creative ingredients that you can get from people, the more ways into the conversation you have to test, right? Maybe they have a lot of testimonials. Maybe they have a lot of lead magnets. Maybe they have a lot of video content, whatever. Get everything. So when you have that prototype done, whatever your deliverables are, it's time to optimize and scale. So let's say it's a sales letter. You wrote your 5 different leads for that sales letter, which we're going to get into an example to in just a minute. After a few other key important points that really drive this home a little bit more and take it a little bit deeper than a lot of people ever consider thinking about. So every ad dollar, we talk about this, is either spent or invested. So spent is gambling, invested is making educated decisions based on a lot of data. Mute yourself. When you break a funnel down into its parts, you're breaking it down into ads versus ads, different styles of ads against each other. Maybe you want to feature testimonials. Maybe you want to feature science and mechanism. Maybe you want to future pace. Maybe you want to use a combination. There's so many different ways to do it. Maybe you have a face and voice that can do a lot of video content. You want to see how people connect with that face and voice and create more of an empathetic connection so that when they get on to the sales letter or VSL, they have webinar, they have a lot more of already a personal connection made. And everything, when you break down ads, leads, quiz, advertorials, that's your lead generation, pre-sales, sales letters, VSLs, webinars, that's your money page. That's where you're making that conversion take place or getting them to the checkout page. That's why they actually call them pre-sale pages, unless they're actually making the purchase there. The checkout page, multiple variations, with, without video, testimonials, different layouts, different looks and feels, different ways of utilizing different parts of your science, having one-click upsells, checkbox upsells, not actually going to another page. If you can build that in and make it a path of least resistance, like if I'm selling yeast infection of silver to women with yeast infections and they're in a relationship, having them double their order so that the man that they're in a relationship with can take it too is an easy upsell. And that's something that I've gotten good metrics on. So you want to test out all of these things, and it's all about congruency and how you, even in that upsell checkbox, that 1 or 2 sentences, 3 sentences that you put there, how are you framing it? How are you selling it? What elements are you using? Upsells and autoresponders. Well, you might need an autoresponder for your quiz pages too. If somebody takes a quiz, test different email autoresponders against each other. Test short, send them directly to a video of your face and voice, send them, give them value, and then get them back onto the sales letter. Not just constantly sell.
There's so many different parts to test.
Yeah. and you need to test them all. And then retargeting. Tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Gordon Pedersen on just an FAQ retargeting video. Commonly asked questions, people who actually call in, he's going to read them off pieces of paper that he printed out. It's going to be extremely authentic, natural. And I'm just going to kind of be there guiding him so that when people get retargeted, because oftentimes it takes 2, 3, 4 touches before they buy, because they have these things in their mind. I can't spend $170 right now. I need to pay my electric bill or my cell phone bill, whatever story they're telling themselves. Then it starts feeling more okay for them to invest in themselves when they really fully grasp the totality of what it is that it's going to help them do, including maybe even make more money. So before I get into the actual leads, excuse me, why am I saying, Brandon, making sales is only 50% of the equation?
Well, it's only half of the equation, because once they buy, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to make them customers, I guess, for life, or as long as humanly possible.
Well, absolutely.
Which means delivery.
That's a huge part of the equation. I'm glad you brought that up. At My Doctor Suggests, we have a 1-year average of the lifetime value based on a certain cost of acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So we know if we pay this cost of acquisition over the course of a year, over 90% of the people are likely to do X, Y, and Z. So that makes it much more of an educated investment to pay those CPAs, even though they're low, relatively for the industry, for supplements. Anyway, so you get the point.
Yeah.
Part of testing, though, is also validating the offer.
Mm.
So if you have an offer, I just lost a client over this, a back end over this, because I needed the product to be really up to par with the front end. I didn't want there to be such a huge disparity between what they actually get and the way that it's sold, the way that it's framed. So there's such, well, not just that, but for me, the writing's on the wall that there's going to be a lot of chargebacks. Now, if you start getting over 5%, you can get shut down from your merchant accounts. So that's something that we as copywriters and business owners who watch this need to be massively aware of, that you can't have high refund rates, chargeback rates, because they can cripple your profits, obviously, but then they can also make it impossible to give people a way to pay you. So, and not only that, but it can ruin the reputation if people talk about it. So, and a lot of people will take the time to comment on company advertising if they didn't have a good experience. So a lot of people are buying just to see if this is for real. And they really are. My Doctor Suggests over 90% of the people who order reorder, 0.2% or 3% refund rate. That's tiny in the supplement industry. So as long as the product and service is exactly what they pay for, refunds, chargebacks should be low. But you always want to give them more value. That could be educational emails, a private Facebook group, like what we're doing with Copywriting Miracles, so that we're constantly advocating for the people who purchase this product.
So you're saying people should write more than just sales. You should also add educational stuff, value.
Well, yeah, help people get the best possible experience out of it, so that you're heightening their experience and lifetime value.
And which only helps your back end if you have
Correct.
it. And if you don't, then you still get.
And you can keep offering offers in the private Facebook group or an email, and they're more receptive because people don't refund and they buy more when they appreciate you. Basic human nature.
Not sure if you have a slide for this later, but have you seen, when you don't have multiple pieces of copy to test, how that goes wrong? Like what happens? Just the entire campaign gets slammed, or extreme?
A lot of people, if the data from the one funnel or the one piece of creative that's put up isn't good, oftentimes they don't do anything. They just think it bombed.
and then nothing happens.
And then nothing happens because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do anything different. All they know is it didn't work. That's why you want to, another reason why you want to be able to test against lots of different things. So you have something to compare against so that you can, break down where the validation is. We're getting into that. Yeah. So here's another thing, compliance, how far out of compliance, it's like, first of all, if you're a copywriter, what's your client's account score? If you're an entrepreneur, what's your account score? If it's 4 or below, you're paying more money getting shit traffic. It's 4 and above, you're paying less money getting better traffic. So what do you need to do to get it there? Get your account audited and make sure that your clients get their account audited so that we can work with it. We can get that account score up. That means we have to hit harder with compliance. That means we have to give them, Facebook or Google, more of what they want, not less. Numbers don't lie. They're going to tell us exactly what they think of you. We're going to buy your account score. We're going to know exactly what the platforms think of anybody's offer, anybody's messaging and material. And all we do from there is figure out how to either get it up or get it further up or maintain it. But at no point do we want to diminish it, because then we're, again, just paying more and getting less, paying more and getting less, paying more and getting less. And then not knowing exactly what to do, because that can really skew data big time.
And this is an actual ad that Facebook sends to people to see, well, did you like
Yeah,
it?
that picture there is an actual ad as somebody who purchased from My Doctor Suggests to see what my experience was. And that is a part of their algorithm for determining a company's account score. There are so many metrics that a lot of copywriters, or people who call themselves copywriters, or people who call themselves entrepreneurs, aren't aware of. And yet this is so hypercritical, because it determines how much you pay and the quality of traffic you can get. All right. So real quickly, we're going to go over here. So here are 5 different leads, just, a few lines for Copywriting Miracle, right? So there are so many ways to enter a conversation. Headline: never fight for copywriting clients again. There's a big difference between being able to call yourself a copywriter and actually making a real living as one. Headline: new copywriting course gives you the tools to make your clients real profits, focusing on the value. What if somebody plopped $20,000 in your lap and said, write me a winner in 3 days? Could you do it? Whole different tone into the conversation. Same product. Are you tired of seeing your copy clients going to more experienced freelancers? It's an age-old dilemma. How do I get clients if I don't have any relevant samples or proven results? A whole different way into the conversation. You'll never be an A-list copywriter living the pimp lifestyle without this, hitting their fear of scarcity. I want this so bad. If I don't get it, I'm going to die. So I need it. What if you decided to become a brain surgeon today? Would you be expecting clients tomorrow? Why is copywriting any different? Another way into the conversation. Headline: why would any copywriter want to work 14-hour days for an agency when you can make 4 times that on your own? 4 times what you would make at an agency. Clunky. The copywriting gurus might tell you, come to my seminar, meet all the most successful entrepreneurs who want to hire you as a hook for getting paid. But is it actually true?
Heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I could go to different seminars and get offers from agencies and different, direct response. A lot of names that have been thrown out in terms of these hot clients are clients I've actually turned away. And that's not putting anybody down. It was just not a resonant thing at the time. So the way that we get clients is by creating our own brands, just like people who are saying that are creating their brands based off of that messaging. So there's all these different ways in the conversation. That last one, You know, I could do relevant as an ad right now with a very few specific audiences. And
I was going to say, quick sidecar, guys. We're going to post this link in the Facebook group. Comment which one of these ideas resonates the most with you, just out of curiosity.
I was just curious. So let the audience decide. I'm gonna do my rock thing. You know, it's like, if is it gonna convert? Should it convert? It doesn't matter if it's gonna convert. You need to keep writing, and you need to keep testing. You need to keep optimizing. You need to keep coming up with new ideas, new concepts, new framing, new positioning, new causes, new mechanisms, new ways to get people to identify, to raise their hands, to get them to see themselves in your copy, to see their stories in your copy, so that they can be taken to the promised land. That's how it's done. So it doesn't matter if you think something should convert, it matters if it does. And that's why we test lots of different copy, because what you think should convert oftentimes won't. And again, if you only write one thing, you're just going to be in devastation land, and the client's going to be wondering what to do next, which sucks for everybody. How do you respond to data once the metric comes in? Collaboration. Full Story is a great software. Get it. Make sure your clients use it. If you're an entrepreneur, use it. It gives so much data, hotspotting, and it just breaks down the full story so that we can get a full idea of the customer experience, that UX.
Any other must-have software while we're on that topic?
You know, I personally like Wistia. I like to get that video data. YouTube, I'm not very good with, although I do understand that they have upgraded their metrics. But yeah, I really do like Wistia when you're using video, sales letters, webinar, talking head, because you're gonna see, you know, very specifically in your presentation where people are having a massive disconnect, so that you can either eliminate it or fix it. And that's one of the ways that we optimize. That's one of the ways that we respond to data. But we need to do this at every point. You know, what is the CPA on the ads? What are the click-through rates on the landing pages? What are the conversions to checkout page on the pre-sales, webinar, VSL, sales letter? What are the conversion rates on the checkout page? How can we get those conversion rates up? What are the conversions on upsell 1, 2, 3? How can we get those up? What are people's experience with that? There's in version 1, 2, 3, which one of those is having the highest metrics, and are they all based on the same interests? Is one interest outperforming another? There's so many things to audit, and we need to be leading that. What if all the creative gets about the same basic numbers? Then what? Well, it totally depends. If it's middle of the road, then you just start optimizing everything and you retest, so that you're retesting a lot. If you're getting, you know, clear 10 to 20% data, optimize that the most, work with the other ones a little bit more, and let the traffic acclimate a little bit more, give it another few days. But it doesn't take very much money at all to vet that out. And what is actually considered scalable? Well, obviously there's a bunch of factors. The cost, the cart values, that's, I mean, probably top of mind for most entrepreneurs. How much money am I paying, and how much money am I getting out, and at what average percentage rate? So they want,
that depends on how much the entrepreneur can afford to
that's true, but again, you know, I do really good off $1,000, $1,500 a day on ads, and people can do a lot with way less too. It's just, you have to really be on it, and you have to be constantly adjusting. But what's actually considered scalable, or that's definitely a huge metric, but, you know, also just the engagement and conversion on every page. If your bounce rate on your checkout page is 15%, I'm sorry, if only 15% of the people are staying on that page, you need to get that over 30. And that will get all of your metrics up. If your ads are performing at 1%, get them up to 7 to 9%. That'll get
So
all
you're
your
saying
metrics up.
to make it scalable, remove any bottlenecks there may be.
Correct. Thank you. There is no failure. There's only giving up. So we just kind of talked about this. You know, if you launch with one piece of creative, a lot of people don't know what to do and they often give up, and that's failing. And the failure in that is that it's totally fixable. Again, I've seen bombs become scalable in a week or two. So it's not that something can't be optimized, but you have to go through the journey. You have to be willing to go through the journey. How badly do you want to help people? How badly do entrepreneurs that you work with want to help people? You know, what did get engagement? Why didn't that engagement translate into sales? You know, like when I got on the My Doctor Suggest, they were getting massive engagement, but no sales. Now we get better engagement and high conversions. And so that was what they were dealing with. All right, we're trying this, we're trying that, we're trying this, we're trying that. I had to come in and change the conversation. And then we were able to scale. So it's just a matter of asking the right questions. Going back to the crux of everything, knowing more than everybody in the room. So ideally, a copywriter or business owner should be writing 10 to 20 hours a week, new copy and optimized copy when the testing process is happening, which should be ongoing, especially if you're getting back end. You're an entrepreneur and you should be wanting to grow your back end constantly. And that's not much time. So, but part of being a good copywriter is being able to instantly jump back into a campaign and build from where you left off. So you're going to have to be able to juggle different copy, different clients, different frequencies. And if you're an entrepreneur, well, great, but you better be putting in more than 20 hours a week, because if it's you on you and you know you're testing your own copy, then just keep pumping that stuff out. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't. So validation. The testing process never ends, but we're constantly getting markers, benchmarks of validation. So what specific marketing is being validated during testing? Because that's like a blinking red neon sign. Come here, we're over here, market here. And more creative needs to be built around that.
So this is essentially taking your winners and then sprouting out from.
Exactly, because then once you have a winner, then you can use that winner to create more winners. So scale the shit out of it, unabashedly. Take the e-brake off, put it in the fifth, and you know, don't let yourself get to that plateau level. Like, oh, we're only making 100 sales a day. You know, why can't we get to 200? You know, that's because you hit a plateau, and you have to keep pushing harder than you did in the very beginning.
So it's
once you skip
natural selection of ads.
Yeah, and ads fatigue and new people come on, so you're always trying to find that balance between new audience and converting audience, and figuring out what ads feel old to some people, what needs to be freshened up. And that's just the ongoing creative process. Creative never ends, so why should the execution of it? Make sense?
Absolutely.
So different, My Doctor Suggests we can scale, and because it's a gut health product, we can do type 2 diabetes, we can do weight loss, food cravings, we can do blood sugar, we can do yeast, we can do toenail fungus, we can do autoimmune, we can do cognitive, we can do accelerated rapid premature aging. These are just things. We can do skin. These are just some of the verticals that we can do, but inside of each of those verticals, we have to test multiple forms of creative. So get one vertical going, then use that vertical to keep building other verticals. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. There's always ways to frame a conversation so that you can be more relevant to different audiences when that product can genuinely help different people suffering from or needing different variances of help in the same spectrum of the conversation. Does that make sense?
Well, what you're saying is, let's say you've got message A and that's been working, but there's also B, C, and D that you can test within the same, like within yeast for My Doctor Suggests. There's multiple.
Correct.
ways.
So there can be a yeast pre-sell letter A, B, C, D, E, and then leads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that can be tested in any of these original pieces. So right there's a ton of creative. Oh, here's 10 more headlines to go with it. There's a ton of creative. Oh, here's a video to go with it. There's a ton of creative. And then we can take that same idea and apply it in autoimmune. So, you know, what different markets, verticals, niches are you going to be relevant for? Is your client going to be relevant for? If you're an entrepreneur, is your product relevant for? Does that make sense?
Just to clarify, when you say do the same thing in autoimmune, you mean the same kind of message, essentially?
Say it again.
Like you're testing all these different messages for yeast, but you can do the same thing in a different vertical. Like the same kind of message, have more life.
Well, it doesn't have to be the same kind of message. It needs to make people identify and raise their hands with the story they're telling. So if I'm telling a story about having a male yeast infection, that's a very different story than if I'm constantly dealing with bloat and farting all the time.
Right.
Even though it comes from the same place. And it has the same solution, right? That's what I mean. So, okay. So for instance, let's say it's a keto product. Okay, then how can that keto product is obviously probably going towards some sort of fat burning weight loss program, because that's what the majority of, that's what keto is. It's fat burning, right? So how can we position that in a different marketplace? Well, let's say somebody's not looking for keto. They don't know what keto is, but they are looking for an ideal diet. Then you can use keto as a mystery reveal.
Right. And then maybe there's another one where for bodybuilders who want to be really, really lean, or the layman who's struggled with everything else, and now keto's this new thing.
Inflammation, and they need the cleanse.
Gotcha.
Accelerated inflammation aging. Right? So there's lots of ways. It's just what questions can you ask to see what different verticals this is relevant for, so that people will raise their hands. Always go back to the beginning. You know, the boxer George Foreman, in his older career, he would always say, start over. If he was losing, he'd be sitting there in this corner and just say to himself, start over. And we always want to start over. It's like a forensics expert working on a cold case. They have to start from the very beginning, and then they can see a whole bunch of things they never saw before, or that nobody else saw before either. Because now you have all this other information and insight and back processing. You have all this data, and you're just pressing the reset button. What if we were just starting now? How would we want to put this out there? Because you also have to realize other companies are also coming after your prospects. So how can you get the majority of that market share? So whether you're converting at over 6% or just 1%, always go back to the beginning. See how you can deconstruct it and rebuild it better. That's how so much winning is done in so many areas of life and business. Yeah.
Gotcha. Always go back to the beginning. The new cause, the mechanism, the fundamental building blocks of persuasion.
Yes. So in the end, it's the next steps are always determined by your initiative and leadership. So if something isn't performing well, then it's up to you to start creating something based on the data that you believe is, and then collaborate it out. Keep everybody excited and motivated and inspired, because not everything is an out of the gate winner. The fact that we believe that it should be, or a lot of people believe that it should be, is just kind of elitist. It's kind of, I deserve. Nobody deserves. We have an amazing opportunity with advertising to help people. That's amazing. And that is not a privilege. It's a superpower that we need to make sure never goes to the dark side of the force, even though that pharmaceuticals already have it. So it's not that we deserve to be successful. It's that we're always just that being that architect, that detective, trying to figure out if I do it like this, what gets people to raise their hands? If I do it like this, what gets people to raise their hands? And just staying curious. If you can tap into that god-awful, exciting curiosity each and every day that pushes you to perform, you will not lose for yourself or anybody ever. But if that need to explore this curiosity. If you're a musician, explore the space. If you're an artist, explore the canvas. If you don't have that need, if you don't have that calling, then you're going to have more bombs on your resume. If you're an entrepreneur running your own business, you're going to go to the next shiny object to sell faster and convince yourself that this wasn't worth your time.
So you need to ask yourself, you're saying, you need to ask yourself, anyone watching this, is copywriting really for them? Is this business really for them?
Yeah, and as a copywriter working with business owners who are investing their ad dollars, stay on top of it. Constantly back process and present new opportunities, new ideas. I'm sick, barely able to get up. I wrote abandoned cart emails. I wrote an entire sales letter. I wrote frame structure for 2 brand new offers, and I've set up that interview for tomorrow. And I'm like barely able to function. So if I can do that when most people would be in the hospital because I'm coughing up that much blood, I'm in that much pain, and I still do it because I have that need, I have that desire, I have that constant curiosity to see what happens if we do this, then nobody should complain. It's not a privilege. It's not, I mean, we don't deserve this if we don't do the work. Nobody owes us anything. The people who buy this stuff, the customers and potential clients, they don't owe us anything. They don't owe us the sale. They do it when they're moved, and that's on us. In terms of collaboration, talking a lot, especially, it's like when there's good money spent on ads, there's a lot of reason to talk. Make sure everything is constantly in upwards momentum. And you're always trying to grow your current results. But then at the same time, you're taking the leadership and initiative to go on your own without beating yourself on the chest or patting yourself on the back to say, I'm creating something to test against. I'm always creating something to test against because that's what we need to do. And that's on me. I don't need you to tell me that. All I need you to do is keep testing and keep collaborating with me. Any questions?
No, I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions, please post here in the private Facebook group. This is going to be in the membership area as well. And I have a bunch of housekeeping notes since we haven't even really started marketing Copywriting Miracle. We're quite a bit behind. So we'll cover that in there as well. And hey, thanks, Brandon. I will see you soon.
Take it easy, guys.